Halo is a series practically defined by legendary missions, with notable standouts all across each game that any player can think back fondly on. And for the majority of these, they involve massive set pieces, fighting off hordes of enemies, huge cutscenes with badass one-liners that remind you exactly why Master Chief is such an icon, or bombastic space battles that really add a sense of scale to the universe. And it's for that reason I struggled so much on picking just one favorite level, for so long being adamant that it was the Covenant from Halo 3 because it just had everything: epic music, air combat, awesome firefights, heroic cutscenes, and huge story revelations. But what the Covenant and every other mission I pondered on didn't have was something one specific mission from the first game managed to do, that no other level in Halo history has quite the same. You see, for its time, Halo 1 was absolutely revolutionary. The fast-paced sci-fi combat, the huge open level design unlike anything before, and the high production values all on console day one for the original Xbox. It was most gamers' dream at the time and instantly cemented Bungie in the pantheon of the greats. But this first entry in the series was also the first look for many into a world and its characters, as well as its adversaries. And in this sixth mission in the main campaign, you get to meet maybe the most iconic enemy in the series for the first time, and boy what an introduction it is. To start off the level, you find yourself in what is called the Flood Containment Facility, somewhere on Installation 04, also referred to as Alpha Halo, which was a set of 7 gargantuan ring worlds abandoned by a technologically hyper-advanced and apparently now extinct set of precursors known as the Forerunners. Even your main enemies you have seen up to this point, the Covenant, regard this ring specifically as the first holy ring, showing it must hold huge significance. But instead of starting the level directly in the secret research facility, you land nearby in the swamp and must make your way towards it. Immediately though, something is extremely off, because you can see an army of Covenant soldiers running for their lives away from the facility. These are the same enemies you have been ruthlessly attacked by and hunted down the entire game, and to see them completely giving up all sense of machista is quite the sight to behold. The only other person that can do that to them is Master Chief, and he's an unstoppable super soldier that can literally take on an entire alien race. Nonetheless, you have to wade your way through a mysterious marshland with massive trees reaching to the sky and ominous music playing in the background, after which you eventually find the base and make your way inside. And it's here you find hordes of Covenant that are randomly set up here with lots of defense systems and soldiers, which is strange considering this is a human facility as well. And speaking of humans, you can also find random survivors screaming at you in horror, asking you to get away and not bring the things near them, which you have no idea what they are talking about. But as you keep going room after room deeper into the base, you realize everything is devoid of life, and an ominous lack of sound begins to become noticeable as more dead bodies start piling up. This sense of loneliness, though, finally is alleviated by a cutscene where we see Master Chief being hunted by some strange unknown creature in the walls, after which he opens a door to find more dead bodies, one of which he takes the helmet up from to watch a recording of past events. These soldiers were sent in with Captain Jacob Keyes, who you were sent to save at this facility, and in the recording you watch as they first encounter the base, full of dead Covenant with strange markings and incisions on their body. They keep making their way deeper into the base where you currently are, and it's here you get to see the first glimpse at the absolute insanity of what's really going on. While surveying the area, a group of Marines and their sergeant are attacked by a massive swarm of aliens crawling out of the walls, who latch onto their faces and contort their bodies into mush. And just when you think it couldn't get any worse, the recording ends, and right where they were attacked, well, you guessed it, now it's Master Chief's turn. You fight off hordes and hordes of these strange monsters you've never seen before, and make your way further into the base, discovering that these pus-filled monstrosities can even explode and damage you if they get too close. Luckily for us though, we're Master Chief, and Master Chief never loses, so you eventually are able to find some of the remaining Marines along with Captain Keyes, and learn that what you have been fighting are actually the Flood, an ancient hostile race of aggressive parasitic monsters that are a threat to the entire galaxy and even the Forerunners before you. And with this newfound information, you help escort the Marines and Captain out and escape to your ship, where you will have to figure out what to do next. It's really just such an awesome and unexpected reveal from a game that was so focused on action, and the fact that almost half of the level doesn't even see you shooting a gun, but rather dealing with the horrors in your own mind instead, is so cool. Because you see, what really made this level so special for Halo as a series was how it it managed to not only introduce a crazy new enemy to fight and be mesmerized by in upcoming titles, but it also showed the range that Halo can have as a game. Sure, those huge action-heavy levels are fun too, but Halo has endless amounts of that. I could have picked so many from every game. 343 Guilty Spark was the first really big indication that not only was this universe really cool and fun, but also it had a lot of depth to it. And I think the reason Halo is so beloved is because it manages to do both. And this level for me is the most legendary in its history because it did it best. And it really is saying something when a mission more quiet and pondering like this, full of horror and story, can immediately come to my mind just as quickly as ones where you are driving warthogs at breakneck speeds through massive explosions. And things like this are what makes sci-fi memorable even years later. Everyone can do explosions and guns making shooting sounds, but not everyone can hit a deeper chord like this level did. By far my favorite Bethesda game ever made, in my opinion, is Oblivion. And while most of that likely comes down to nostalgia of it also being my first, a big part of it comes from what I think are truly the best quests and factions Bethesda has ever done. Because you see, Oblivion is home to quests where you're transported into paintings and nightmares, Daedric statues that literally come to life, the Shivering Isles and all of its wackiness, or even coming up against the Grey Fox and the Thieves Guild faction questline. But out of all of these journeys, none are cooler and more feral than the Dark Brotherhood. You originally get recruited into this foreboding murder cult if you have killed an innocent person in the game, and when you fall asleep for the next time, you're awoken by a mysterious figure and message beckoning you to join a secretive organization. This eventually leads you down the path of joining the Dark Brotherhood proper, and it's here you get to meet Ochiva, the head of the sanctuary of the guild in one of the major cities. And after earning more of Achiva's trust, she eventually tells you she is sending you on a special mission, where you will need to travel to the sprawling city of Skingrad to meet with another cult member named Fafnir, who holds the key to grant access to a very special building. Ochiva tells you that the Brotherhood has lured in a handful of people who have wronged the organization into this building, and told them that they all must remain locked inside until someone finds hidden treasure that will make them rich, playing into all of their immense greed. But your orders are much more sinister. Instead, you are instructed that you will need to kill all of the guests, ideally without any of them finding out, after which the building will be unlocked and you'll be free to go. And while the setup for this quest is somewhat absurd, it's also so awesome for a faction mission in a game like this, and leads to maybe the best quest in all of Elder Scrolls, and potentially even the most memorable in Bethesda history. Stepping inside, you are immediately greeted by a small Nord woman named Matilde Petit, who helps you get acquainted with the other 4 guests and inquires about who you are. If you so choose, you can even right at the start here reveal to her that you're an assassin, and she will simply just laugh it off, albeit much more wary of you in the future. And so begins your journey on how to figure out how to kill all of these combatants without them even knowing. The reason this quest is so fantastic though is all of the intrigue that takes place while you're on your path getting there. Each of the guests has a disposition to you that can be improved or destroyed depending on your discussions with them and others trapped in the house. And as you talk to everyone more, you get to see the dynamics of the place, that being who is friend and foes alike, who are secret lovers, or who's about to break out into all-out brawls. Simply walking around this estate and listening to the other NPCs engage in conversation is super fun, and the amount of permutations and dialogue here is staggering, where depending on each of your relationships with each character, it can drastically affect how you speak with all the others. So the whole thing becomes a massive set of mind games of sorts, where you will be turning certain people against one another while trying to ally with the rest. And this crazy game of murder chess becomes even more interesting as you start inflicting pain on your victims. Because if discovered, the others will start to freak out about a killer amongst them, and it's your job to convince everyone it's not you, which can result in situations where you can even make other characters kill each other because they assume you're telling the truth about who the murderer really is. It's such a great and varied quest that without a doubt is just Bethesda at their best. Open sandbox levels with interesting NPC dialogue and AI that all interact in wild and weird ways, and even for all the faults this quest still has, it goes to show what what Bethesda can do with some actually good writing and a solid setup. Even the ways in which you can kill the guests are so varied and wild too, like convincing poor Matilda Petite to check the downstairs cellar for something while everyone else is away, after which you follow her in and leap on her like a lion chasing its prey. And watching the insanity and antics that ensue as everyone starts to doubt each other is hilarious, knowing full well the entire time that you're the killer at large. It's the type of thing I wish Bethesda would do more in their recent games, and more than anything, I hope we can get some really memorable quests like this in The Elder Scrolls 6, because for me, that's what makes me think about and write about a game, even decades later from its initial release. For a series known most for its frantic and in-your-face gory gameplay and parkour, it's surprising just how many notable quests there are in the Dying Light franchise. But the one quest that stands out amongst the pack without a doubt is Fan Zone from the first installment. After hearing word from one of the survivors, Noah, in the safe zone about a distress call that was picked up on the radio waves, you can inquire to learn more from him about where this call was coming from. And if you set out to find it, you eventually can get close enough to pick up more of the signal, which apparently was made from a woman and children who are in big trouble and need supplies in order to survive. Getting extremely close to the building though, you can hear another message loud and clear where a scared man proclaims, "For anyone that can hear this, our situation is dire. There are women and children here. We can offer electronic equipment and ammunition in exchange for medicine, food, and drinking water. Please help us." And considering that a massive zombie apocalypse has broken out, thinking about these supposed mothers and children barely having enough food to survive is horribly sad, and it means it likely becomes your top priority immediately. But once you arrive at the actual building where the distress call claims you need to go, things immediately get really strange. First of all, the building is blocked off with not many ways in, and once you get inside, you can find an elevator nearby which you can promptly call. However, once inside the elevator, you notice that the walls and ceiling are covered in blood and strange markings. So you take the elevator upstairs, and once you arrive at your floor, countless dead bodies and mutilated corpses are strung all about, and you start to fear the worst for what might have happened to the innocent mother and children, yet something in the back of your mind doesn't feel quite right. You also at this point hear a broadcast clear as day from that same man stating, "To anyone who can hear this, your situation is dire. I've killed women and children here. I can offer you death in exchange for medicine, food, and drinking water. Come to me." A chill runs down your spine and sense of dread takes over as you realize that you've been tricked by an insane psychopathic killer into coming into this sadistic place, and that you are now trapped in his domain where he will hunt you down and turn you into another lifeless corpse. The supposed mother and children from the distress call before were nothing but a front, and you have fallen into a trap like a fish out of water. And it's here you must sneak your way around this terrifying prison of sorts until you can find a broadcast room in the building and turn the distress call off to prevent others from succumbing to the same fate. And after you do this, you try to find an escape path out of the building, and during this portion of the quest, you finally come into contact with the psycho serial killer who's been taunting you the whole time. And lo and behold, he's using a high-level police rifle to hunt you down and is a strong adversary. This leads to an all-out brawl where you must take down a man who has mercilessly killed so many innocent children and women, and after beating him, you have to look back and see once again all the devastation he's wrought. Overall, it's a perfect example of a quest subverting our expectations, and once again shows that even in a world full of mindless zombie killing machines, the biggest monsters are always still the people that we sometimes call our neighbors. And really, just the whole setup for this quest and how we even get to this murder house is handled so well, where by the time you notice the blood all over in the elevator, you immediately realize you are way in over your head and something crazy is about to happen. I've always had a special place in my heart for the Borderlands series. I distinctly remember as a kid picking up the first game and playing with my friends every day after school and on the weekends. And considering it was my first looter shooter ever, I was utterly addicted. Finding new guns from bosses and adjusting my build was a daily event. And when the second game released, it improved on the first in pretty much every way imaginable. Along with these improvements too were tons of memorable quests with the best writing the series has seen by far. But amongst these, there was one huge standout, a quest that literally only takes 1 minute to complete, yet in that 1 minute manages to make you laugh like so few quests can. Titled Kill Yourself, the quest is given to you from none other than the main adversary of the game, Handsome Jack, and just as the name implies, requests that the player jump off a ledge in order to off themselves and receive a reward from good old Jack. This is about as simple as a quest can get, but the short and lackadaisical execution is just so well done and taps into all the types of humor that make this series so great in the first place. In fact, instead of telling you why this quest is so fun and funny, considering how short it is, I'll just show you instead.
But if you want a huge reward, you jump off that cliff and become my bitch. Take your time.
I'm gonna be rich!
Okay. I guess you just killed yourself. Head back to the bounty board and I'll pay you. But, just 1 second. No matter what happens, I just want you to remember one thing.
The Hyperion Corporation
You're a sellout.
assured none of that
Killed
was
yourself
your
because
fault.
paid you to. You're a bitch.